Sorry about the technical difficulties. All right, y'all. We are live. Sorry again about the technical difficulties, man. Trying to run a show, direct, host, do all the technical stuff behind the scenes. But y'all, we got a special episode for y'all today, man. My boy, Richie Richieprofits is joining the show live. We are streaming this on Rumble, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. But Richie, what's happening, man?
What's up, Kevin? Thanks for having me, man. Great to be on your show.
Yeah, bro, it's definitely good to have you on, man. I know we've been talking about doing something together for a while now. And, it's funny, like, when I was thinking about how we're going to do this show, it's like, obviously we know each other, in the real world, but I didn't want to say too much stuff about you personally so that, stuff you haven't put out there. But I did hear that you put out that you personally your company owns 1,000 ATMs. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're right around 1,000, and a lot of those we own, but we don't own all of them. Some of them we manage for other companies or for other merchants who bought their own ATMs.
Yeah, so the ATM business, I dabbled in it a little bit. It was absolutely fascinating. I learned some of, my best business lessons, I think, through the ATM business. But I think what it really opened my eyes to is passive income. So you've kind of been dabbling in this since what, you were in high school?
Yeah. So my first, the first time I worked with ATMs, I was 15 years old. I had a family member who was early in the ATM game, helped them out a little bit, went off on my own at 16 years old in high school, started with one ATM and just kept growing. I got addicted to it. And I'm really still addicted to it. And I'm always, putting out more. And now it's bigger than just ATMs. It's all kinds of other unattended devices and unattended businesses, but same principles.
Did you ever think, when you were 16, when you ventured off to do your own thing, did you ever think it could be as big as it is now?
No, definitely not. I think the bar kept getting raised. So in the beginning, I remember when I really wanted to have like 2, and then I wanted 5, and then I was like, man, one day I'll have 10, one day I'll have 20, one day I'll have 50, one day I'll have 100, and so the bar just kept going higher and higher and higher, and it still keeps going higher, um, with everything that we do, and what seemed impossible at that time and many other times after that just kept becoming possible. We'd set a new goal and work really hard at it and achieve the goal. So, whether it was going 5 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 50, it seems really hard at the time. And now, what seemed impossible then that might have taken a year or two to do back then, we might be able to do in like a month or a quarter. So it's changed. I remember too, like the accounts that I thought I'd probably never be able to get, I'd never have. And that's like, like airports and these giant 2,000 room hotels. I dream about having those, and I'd be like, man, I'm late to the game. Somebody else already has that. They have it locked up. Those are the big players. But then I became the big player and I was able to get those accounts. And so it's funny when you look back at it, everything that really seemed like out of reach, as long as like I kept making a little progress, eventually what seemed impossible actually became easy. But it wasn't, one of these get rich quick things. It took persistent like working at it over and over and over, like setting these goals, trying new things, hustling hard, lots of failure, lots of experiments, but eventually you get there.
Yeah, and that's what's wild. I remember when I got into the ATM game, I remember like looking for content, now there's a ton of content online, but it seems that whenever you get into the realm of passive income and businesses like that, it is kind of riddled with scams or riddled with fraud, and it just seems like to average person couldn't even imagine being able to have 1,000 ATMs or being able to have a business that I don't want to say that ATM's business is easy, but having these passive income streams that allows you to, work on other things where it's not like, if you were, say a plumber or something, you wouldn't be able to have the opportunities it brings to you. So what do you think, for somebody maybe new that's getting into ATMs or wanting to get into ATMs, in one way I see it being a lot tougher, because of the competition, but in other ways I see it being a little bit easier because of technology. Do you think it's easier or harder right now to get into the game?
It's easier for sure. You got to realize when I started out, I mean, social media was nothing, and the internet really, I mean, it was big and it was useful, but nothing compared to now. I mean, back then I had to actually get in a car and go hit every one of these businesses every day after school. I would, and on the weekends, I would just drive around, and you had to actually go to these businesses and meet these people in person. Whereas nowadays, I can find anybody's contact info online. I can message business owners directly on Instagram, on Facebook. And, really, I'm kind of late to that because there's been some new guys who've gotten in who've grown even faster than I grew because they were younger and understood that technology better. And they've been able to take social media and just like take it and run with it and grow their ATM businesses or other unattended businesses like really fast. It's amazing. I mean, if you think about it, like you can back when I started, you couldn't just go on like Upwork and hire virtual assistants and appointment setters and you didn't really have like the equivalent of Facebook groups, and you didn't have that DM capability of just finding every single business on Instagram and Facebook and DMing saying, "Hey, do you need an ATM? Do you need ATM?" And like I could go on Google News right now and type in like new bar opening, new hotel opening, new gas station opening, and I can find like every new bar, hotel, or gas station opening in like the whole country. That was not that was not easy to do back then at all. I don't even know if it could have been done on the internet back then.
Yeah, so I remember one thing I did. Look, anybody that's joining the show, man, if you got any questions for Richie and I about passive income businesses, just drop them in the chat. We'll answer live. One thing I remember doing around a time when Facebook Marketplace was just kind of getting going. I remember finding deals on ATM machines on there that business owners that were closing were just literally just letting go to the machines. And that's something that was toward the end of my ATM business. So like that option wasn't there. But I'm like, now, man, if you go on Facebook Marketplace and you know what you're looking for, you can really, really find some good ATM deals. Now, one thing I'll say, Richie, for everything good I can say about the ATM business, I could probably name you about 5 bad things.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the obstacles that maybe somebody new watching this saying like, man, I want to get an ATM route? What are some of the big obstacles they're going to run into?
Well, it's changed a lot in terms of cash access. Being able to get cash from a bank is really hard to do. I remember when I started, you could pull up to a Capital One, pick up $250,000 in 20s, like on the spot. They'd have it ready for you in like 10 minutes, and they'd even need to know you were coming. Nowadays, I mean, you're lucky if you can pull up to a bank branch and get $20,000 in cash. They just don't keep a lot of cash on hand. And so you need to order that cash and have it picked up at on a certain day at a certain branch. And so you really have to like forecast what you're going to need in advance. But also, a lot of banks won't touch ATM companies. In fact, most of them won't. There's very, very few. I mean, even here in New Orleans, there's 2 banks that I consider ATM friendly banks. There are other ones that'll do it, but they're going to charge you so much that it's not worth it. I mean, they'll charge you 50 cents or more for every $1,000 of cash that you pick up. And that adds up fast. So it's not worth it.
Yeah, I think I remember like, I had a Capital One account and I think that account was kind of like grandfathered in. But I remember when I'd bring in new guys to be loaders, the bank's giving them all kind of trouble. And I didn't really have an answer for them. But we got a question that just came in from Antonio. Are POS systems a better route to take? We're going to get to POS and credit card processing. We're just going to touch on some ATM stuff. But short answer, yes. I'd say short answer, yes. Richie, give us a shorty, but we will elaborate on this further.
I agree with that to an extent. For somebody just starting out today, especially if you don't have a lot of money and you're a hustler and you can go out and really hustle, credit card processing, cash discount credit card processing is probably a better place to start. I mean, you could go make a ton of money with that right now, but it is extremely competitive. Not to say that ATMs aren't competitive, but credit card processing, I mean, Kevin knows because he's doing it now. Everybody and their brother's doing it, it seems like. So
and we got some
hard.
questions. We got some questions coming in the Instagram chat. Y'all, sorry, like just keep typing the questions if we don't see them. One person said, has COVID affected your business? Absolutely, yes. So what Richie's talking about money being harder to get, it's because of that. They changed some laws where the banks aren't really required to have cash on hand like they used to. Obviously a bunch of supply chain issues with COVID, but then somebody else, ATM for UX, do I need an LLC? Look, I'm not an attorney. I do a lot of stuff old school, but I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes, an S Corp or an LLC. Richie, you might be a little bit more.
You should have one for sure. I mean, the bank's probably not going to touch you at all if you don't have an LLC.
Yeah. So again, y'all keep the questions coming. We'll answer live as we go. Now, Richie, let's kind of draw out a blueprint. You know, you're somebody watching this. You know, somebody you're 16-year-old, 17-year-old Richie Balmy. You're starting an ATM company, and you know you have a little cash, or maybe you don't have much cash at all. What is kind of your blueprint to them? Like if you could give them like a step-by-step guide, like what would it kind of look like?
Like for starting an ATM business or any unattended business?
No, let's just go ATMs. We're going to get into the credit card stuff.
And the first thing is, you know, start the LLC, get everything set up, learn about the business. Really easy to do nowadays. You can go on YouTube. There's so many free resources. You can join these Facebook groups. There's a bunch of them out there. My favorite one's ATM Business Startups. They can tell you everything you need to know, answer any question you might have. Please don't buy a course, and please don't buy an automation program, because you are going to waste a lot of money and probably feel pretty bad about it at some point, as we've been seeing over and over and over lately. This idea of quick, easy, turnkey businesses is not a great idea. If it were that easy, that person wouldn't be selling it to you. First off, if they can go out and get really good locations and turnkey the thing for you, why would they sell it to you if it was good? I wouldn't sell it to you if it was good. So don't do that. Don't go that route. It's an expensive, very rough route. Kevin, when you were mentioning the people selling their ATMs on Facebook Marketplace or like the Craigslist of the world, that's where they're coming from. These guys got totally screwed over and spent $12,000 on an ATM from one of these automated programs where they're putting an ATM in a place that does 30 transactions a month, and they're not making any money. They're never going to make their money back. So they give up and they take the machine and they sell it on Facebook Marketplace. And so that brings me to the next point, the most important part of your question. You have to go out and get locations. So if you're looking for somebody to do that for you, this really isn't the business for you to get into. If you're looking to buy an automated deal where they're going to give you a location, don't do it. If you're going to use a locator, I don't recommend that. That usually doesn't end well. Like, go get your own locations. Like, get off your ass, or even get on your computer and reach out to people, but get your own locations. If you're too shy to do that, then just don't get in this business, because that's what it comes down to. Because you're gonna get locations that don't do well in any unattended business, and you're gonna have to go find another location to move it to. So if you're afraid to talk
Richie,
to people,
you mean to tell me they're not all going to make 2,000 a month like the course said? They're not.
No, nowhere close. Nowhere close. Yeah, you'll hear some crazy stuff that these social media guys are pushing out there, saying you're gonna make thousands of dollars of passive income. It's turnkey. You don't have to do anything. It's all bullshit. There's a lot you have to do. I mean, it is easier than a lot of other businesses. Surely it's much easier than starting a restaurant. You know, you don't want to do that.
Way easier than starting a restaurant.
That's a really rough business to be in. But by no means is it meant to be something where you're gonna sit at home and do nothing. It just doesn't work that way. And if that's how you want it to work, go find another business.
Yeah, you know, and I can only break down to y'all what I've done. Again, you know, a lot of this social media and stuff, it wasn't as big, it wasn't as affluent as it is now, especially it's for advertising, building businesses. I just went everywhere, guys. You know, I went to, and then I remember what was one of the websites you can see whether businesses, one of like the review sites where you can see if businesses are cash only or not. Mm-hmm. So I'd make lists and I would just go to all these businesses, and then also too, you know, finding new businesses opening, but really niching down and knowing like what kind of businesses need ATMs. And like Richie said, you know, you're going to have some duds. So the most important thing is going to be the location. Everything else you can get. Trust me, if you have an A location, Richie would probably give you, Richie, if somebody came to you and said, Richie, we got an A+ location. It does 500 to 1,000 transactions a month, man. Look, man, the business owner's going to fill it. Can you hook me up with a machine? You'd work something out with that guy, right?
Yeah, for sure.
You know, it's all about the numbers. So if you can bring something to Richie, you know, a location, you know, and you got somebody to fill it, well, it's going to be in Richie's best interest because he's trying to grow more. It's a volume game at this point. But the ATM business is, guys, like anything, it's super, super competitive. Anything that's passive income like this, it's going to be super competitive. So you got to really ask yourself, like, what is your competitive advantage? Are you a good salesperson? Are you a good technical person? Maybe you can, work on the machines, install them. Are you a good networker? Are you a politician? Or, what separates you from the other ATM companies? Now,
hey, Kevin, one thing to throw in, not to cut you off, but I want to throw it out there. Even if you are a great salesperson, that is your competitive advantage, you better have reliability as your next competitive advantage, because you can be the greatest salesperson on earth in any of these unattended businesses. I don't care if it's ATMs, credit cards, jukeboxes, any of the stuff that you and I have done. You can be great and you can go sign up all the accounts you want. But if you're not reliable and you don't keep those machines up and running, you're going to be out of there fast. So that's the other piece. Like, don't just be good at sales, but also be good at delivering and taking care of your fleet and doing what you say you're going to do. If you're not good at that, once again, go find another business. It's not the right fit. I mean, Kevin, I remember you had all those internet jukeboxes all over the city. And I already know if they called you at 2 a.m, you had to go deal with it.
Yeah, so that, and I think that's what people don't understand is that getting the machine in there is just half the battle. Keeping the ATM loaded, and then the thing is, guys, stuff is going to go wrong, and they're going to blame you. Meaning that I had a location on Bourbon Street, y'all. I was so excited, had an ATM location on Bourbon Street. Something happened with their cameras, and their internet or something was down, and he was blaming the ATM machine. And I'm like, having to explain to him, like, man, this has nothing to do with the ATM machine, but they don't want to hear that. They just know that everything was working, and now you're in, and now something's broke, so you're the problem. So having a technical background, a networking kind of background would definitely help. But do you think that's necessary, Richie, today?
No, I mean, you can learn all of it on YouTube for free. I mean, anything that you need to learn about this business, you can learn on YouTube, or you can go join ATM Business Startups on Facebook and learn all of it. So no, you don't. I mean, fixing any of this stuff's not that hard. It's I mean, mostly changing out a part, and they don't even break that often. But yes, they do break. I mean, usually on an ATM, it's a bill jam. The bills get crumpled up, jammed up. You have to go unjam it. But maybe it's a card reader, maybe it's a keypad, maybe it's a screen. You just pop that part out and put the new one in. If you can use a screwdriver and move some wires around, and then you can do it. But yeah, I mean, you do get, especially I noticed like in the credit card side, if their internet goes out or something, they think it's for some reason you caused it. I could tell you what we do on most of our devices, especially the ATMs, is we run them on cellular modems. That way, for one, they can't say we did anything to their internet or their network. And for two, when their internet goes down and they can't take credit cards, and now everybody can use the ATM to get cash, and we stay up and running. And I guess for three, like, people change their routers, they change their whole internet situation. Every time they do that, especially at scale, when you're running 1,000 ATMs, that would be happening almost every day. That somewhere in this country, somebody's changing something with their internet and their network, and now you have to send a technician out there to deal with it. So we much rather use cellular. And it's not that, man, like, once again, when I started, cellular modems weren't even like a thing. They were just coming out like in those first few years, and they were expensive. And then they went down to like $20 a month, and people now think that's expensive. Now they're down to like $4 or $5 a month. So like, why not use it if you're going to have a much better connection and you're going to have a lot less issues? In my opinion, like, it's the way to go. I mean, we run even our massage chairs, our towers, our billboard, everything runs on cellular pretty much now. I mean, there's no reason not
to. Antonio said he loves you, Blue Dog. So let's get into, so like, y'all look, if you have a location, then you have ATM business. That's what it boils down to. I'm not trying to discourage anybody from doing ATM business. Somebody said, man, y'all type your questions in the chat. I got to scroll up there asking questions. Do you have any marijuana dispensaries? And are you worried that there is talk of marijuana being deregulated down to Schedule 3 drug when credit cards could be used to pay for the weed? So do you have any dispensaries? I know them do.
Believe it or not, believe it or not, I don't have any dispensaries. We did at one point have one. It's never been our focus. It probably should have been, because a bunch of buddies that we have that are in the business have a lot of dispensaries and they're making a killing. But for sure, at some point, even if it doesn't get before it even gets deregulated, they're going to pass a bill for payments, and they're going to start taking cards, I'd say. And a lot of people think that's going to happen within like the next 2 years. Of course, they said that 2 years ago. So I don't know when it's going to happen, but there's guys with ATMs and dispensaries that are doing hundreds of transactions a day, which is insane. That's like the numbers we would see at like a bank or an airport, and they're doing it at dispensaries. So dispensaries, as of right now, I'd still do it if it came up and I had the opportunity. I'd do it, because you're going to pay the machine off so fast. Who cares if it goes away in a couple of years?
So let me give you the big brain way of looking at this, y'all. So the dispensaries, yes, you're doing super huge. I mean, guys, you're gonna be doing strip club and casino numbers if you get a dispensary. I've personally never had one, but I know people that have. Now,
It's
I
sick.
wouldn't get. Oh yeah, I wouldn't get too worried
Planet
about.
13 has like 10 ATMs.
Oh, dude,
I know
I
you're an
went there and
investor, and
I'm like fuming. I'm like, man, this should be me in here, but I wouldn't look at it as like, okay, obviously, y'all, stuff's going to change. Like down here, the DMVs were cash only for a while. They had ATMs, and them ATM, they switched to taking cards. Them ATMs went to zero. But what you need to think of is this: is that having that ATM, it gets your foot in the door with these locations. So if you've serviced them correctly on the ATM side, and then they can legally accept cards now, Richie, wouldn't it make sense that they'd go with you for the credit card processing?
there's people already doing that. Like that is the play. Like there are guys. I spoke to somebody the other day who is big in the dispensaries, and that's their whole plan. They started up a processing division, and they're already pushing, saying, hey, look, like they may already be putting there's these cashless terminals that you're not supposed to put out there, that a lot of guys are putting out there in these dispensaries. But a lot of these guys are positioning themselves to have the relationship so that when the ATMs do go away, they'll have the credit card processing, which is still, on cash discount, going to make them a ton of money. They might even make more. So it's all about relationships. I mean, that's how we look at this. You're building a portfolio of customers, and it doesn't matter if you're doing ATMs today or credit cards tomorrow or whatever comes next beyond that. You have built this loyal client base, and as long as you delivered and did what you said you were going to do, and you proved yourself to them, they're going to be loyal to you. And when you have new opportunities, they're going to go with you. And that is the beauty of like an ATM business, is because you can start with the ATM, but then you can add, just like Kevin did. Like I watched Kevin do it. He had ATMs, and he added jukeboxes, he added pool tables, he added credit card processing. And he might have one place that has all of that stuff because they trust him now. They know him, they like him, they know he's going to show up at 2 a.m. when they have a problem. So they say, you know what? We're going to give everything to Kevin that we could possibly give to Kevin.
And think about it from a sales standpoint. Say there's a new bar opening in your town, and you're going in there, and I'd always say it like this, man, you might not always get the Happy Meal, but you might get the chicken nuggets, meaning that they might say, look, man, I'm going with Richie for the ATM. He's my guy. But Kevin, you do POS? Yeah, Kevin, you put the POS. We're going with company ABZ for the jukebox. So having that wide range of stuff you can offer is going to benefit you. But looking back on it, Richie, if I'm being objective and I'm just looking back on it, if I could do it all over again, or if 16-year-old Richie could do it all over again, I think I would have done, like Antonio was asking earlier, the point of sale systems and credit card processing. I think that is in 2023. I think credit card processing and POS systems are the best passive income opportunity of any business. And if there's something better, let me know in the comments. But Richie, what do you think? Somebody new getting into the game. Is this their best?
I agree. I agree with that. I'm gonna tell you why I didn't do it. I looked at credit cards early on when I was probably 17, 18 years old, got signed up under an ISO, and I didn't do it because back then it really wasn't as profitable. There wasn't cash discount. You didn't have cash discount back then. And it wasn't that great of a deal. And I also back in 2013 got involved in a POS play. And man, like that's before Square and all of these cloud-based systems, these iPad systems. And it was way harder, man. You were spending, you know, one bar or restaurant might have been like $10,000 plus in equipment. And it was big. It was complicated. We had to have a guy that was like an expert on his stuff on the team to help. And it was really hard to set up. And it was harder to fix. I mean, it's a whole nother game. Once again, going back to the idea that, yeah, is there a lot of competition these days? Sure. But in a lot of ways, all of this stuff's gotten so much easier. I mean, like even ATMs, like back then, we didn't have two-way communication with the ATMs. Like now we can, you know, if we wanted to change something on ATM or update software, we had to physically go to every ATM back then. Now we do it all remotely. So like same thing with POS. POS at one time was a pain in the ass. Like it was really hard. And people are always like, well, if you're always telling people you should do credit cards, you start with credit cards. Why didn't you start with credit cards? I'm like, because what you're thinking of as credit cards and POS today is not what it was when I started. Like somebody getting in now is so freaking lucky that I mean, back then there was just 3 or 4 companies controlled POS in New Orleans because they had the dealerships, like the franchise for each one. You know,
You
one
couldn't
guy
get
had
the POS
Posi
if you
Touch.
tried.
Right. Yeah. Like one guy had Aloha, one guy had like Posi Touch, one guy had
Made millions.
Micros. Yeah. And they controlled it. So if you wanted to say, if somebody was like, hey, I want a Micros, like you couldn't do it. They had to go through that guy. So it's all changed now. It doesn't work like that anymore.
The games change. You know, you got Square, you got Toast, you got a lot of these big conglomerates. We got another question that just came in, Richie. Credit card processing systems, which do you recommend to get? So that's you'd have to elaborate a little more. That is all about, I'd say with the credit card processing to niche down, you know, like let's say be the guy that just does pizza shops or the guy that just does bars or the guy that just does, you know, tire shops. Now, I've done it the other way where I've just, you know, anybody whose business I can get, but it creates a lot of headaches, like Richie said, because there's a lot of technical issues you have to learn with the POSs. It can be very, very complicated. You know, luckily I just had a background in computers and stuff in network. And so I was able to figure out a lot of stuff on my own, but it can be really complicated, but there's really no better passive income because one, every business is taking credit cards. You know, I'd say most businesses we deal with, Richie, they're 80 to 90% cards now. A lot of places, you know, aren't taking a lot of cash. And two, you know, your income that you can gain is based just off of, you know, as long as the business is processing cards, you're getting a percentage. So there's really no better passive income strategy. And every business doesn't need an ATM. Every business needs to take credit cards.
Another piece of that answer is the best credit card processing system depends on which vertical. So what is the best one for a bar may not be the best one for a restaurant. What is the best one for a restaurant isn't the best one for a gas station or for, you know, a retail store. Like there's now the systems are very, very specialized. Like Toast is for restaurants. You don't use Toast typically like in a retail store. That would be, you know, a totally different system. So it depends. You know, Kevin and I talk about this often. He's way heavier into POS and credit cards than I am, but you know, we'll get asked by a bar or a restaurant or somebody to do it, and we'll do it. And we'll talk about, you know, what's the best system for these people. And it's almost always a different answer depending on what they're trying to accomplish. I mean, there's so many different types of businesses and some of them value different things. They may say, no, I want a system that does X, Y, and Z. And a system that you were going to push to them doesn't do that. And I think Kevin's actually dealing with a situation like that right now where he might have pitched one, but they're wanting something else. So that happens. So you have to be, you know, as much as I like to on the ATM side of things, work with one manufacturer and keep everything universal, doesn't work that way in credit cards and POS. Like everybody, I mean, even on the terminals, some people like a terminal that has a certain set of steps and number of steps to process a card, whereas other people like another terminal. So you have to be open and you have to be a bit agnostic as to which terminals and systems you're willing to work with and support.
Yuli just asked a question, said basic terms of credit card processing that I should know if I'm starting. Yuli, that's a good question. So, you know, obviously our school system's not going to have a lot of, you know, content on how to start a point of sale system business. Now, I'll say this, Richie, we were talking about the courses with the ATMs. I did pay for a course for credit card processing, and I did think that I got my money's worth, but a lot of the information is free out there in the internet.
Which course did you take?
CC Sales Pro, and this is not a plug or anything, guys. He's not sponsoring any of this. I took his course, but again, he's got a ton of free content out. You could just consume the free content, and I like this free content so much, I paid for the course to get that leg up. But I'd say, Richie, just for me, having a competitive advantage, meaning that know the pros and the cons of every system. You don't need to know everything about every system, but for example, like Richie said, you said Toast, knowing that Toast is more designed for restaurants, and knowing that the competitive advantage is it's super expensive. So merchants aren't going to, they're not going to want to pay all that for a system when they can get something cheaper. But a lot of, so Fast Cash, they said, Toast for restaurants. How about pizza shops or tire shops? What would you recommend? Okay, so Fast Cash ATMs, understand that you can't sell Toast. Toast is proprietary, meaning that they're processor agnostic, which basically means that only Toast can sell Toast. So what you would want to do, Fast Cash, is there's POSs that they allow independent sales reps. Like Clover would be one, Hot Sauce would be one, Shift 4, Harbor Touch. Those are examples of one. For a pizza shop, Richie, do you have any recommendations for that? I mean, it really depends.
It depends. It could be the one that you're pushing that you just mentioned, not Toast.
Clover.
Clover, yeah, Clover maybe. I don't have any pizza shops. I really couldn't tell you.
Yeah,
but I do know like a lot of people ask for Clover like across the board these days. I mean, we even had a hotel ask us for Clover, which seemed kind of odd, but that's what they wanted.
This one right here, y'all, it's called Snack. I've not put one of these out yet, but they say these are good for pizza shops. I don't have any pizza shops in my portfolio, but you know what I would do? You know what I do, Fast Cash? I would actually go around to local pizza shops or call them and see what they got. And you'd be surprised, Richie. I don't know about you, but like whenever I go places, as long as you're not being like pushy and salesy, if you're just asking questions like, man, what system is that? Oh, that's a Clover. Oh, do y'all like it? They will open up to you, but if they think that you're trying to sell them, they're going to shut the door on you. So you got to really go into it, genuinely. Yeah, Antonio, Toast is proprietary, meaning that only they sell their equipment. So Toast isn't going to let me or Richie sell Toast equipment. Clover will let you do that. Hot Sauce will let you do it. And there's a bunch of POSs. Lavu will let you do
that. And Kevin,
that.
you didn't really like Hot Sauce, huh? Because we were about to try that out with a customer who was looking for a new POS, and I know you just tried it.
Yeah, so I haven't given Hot Sauce enough of a try yet to really give it the thumbs up. So far, there's stuff I like about it, stuff that I don't like about it, but that's been every POS. I had a customer beg me for Clover. I mean, he begged me. I wanted to give him something else. He got Clover. We had some issues. We worked them out, but that's the bigger thing with this, y'all. You have to answer your phone, and you have to, it's passive income. And dude, I have places, Richie, I don't know about you. I have places where I don't hear from them ever, and I just get that mailbox money every month. But I do have some places I got to put the white gloves on and really go over there and figure out some issues and really hold their hands. And they appreciate that, man. That shit goes a long way.
Yeah, no, I don't know. A lot of ours have been pretty hands-on. So I'd say that, the idea that because it's credit card processing, that it's just passive isn't accurate. In fact, I've seen guys get into it. They had connections, they signed up a bunch of accounts, and then they cratered because they had no idea what they were doing. They weren't willing to go help. And, some of our credit card accounts are on like Bourbon Street. They're in the French Quarter, very high volume, very busy at night, very busy on the weekend, holidays. And it's like the end of the world for them when these things go down. It's way worse than when an ATM goes down, unless it's cash only, which not many places are anymore down here. But yeah, for sure. Like if they go down, I mean, they're going crazy. So somebody's got to go. Somebody's got to, and it could just be their internet went down. And in that case, we switch them to cellular until their internet comes back up. Or it could be that the terminal's bad. I mean, these high volume places, they spill drinks in them, drop food in them. They ruin these terminals, and you better have a backup, because if somebody else has a terminal, they're going to be with them the next day because they want to be up and running quick. And you do not have time to wait for a terminal to get shipped to you.
Yeah, and guys, if you got a location where you're making, and Richie can attest to this, I've had locations making a 500 a month, 1,000 a month from one credit card, one passive income location. So you really do have to, I hate to use the old saying that the customer is always right, but like you really, really do need to take care of these customers. Now, Richie, people were talking this, we're talking, making 1,000 a month per location. So people was probably like, wow, 10 locations, I can make 10,000 a month.
Dude, I have ones that make more than that. I mean, it's crazy how much these cash discount accounts make. Hey, Dave just asked a good question. He said, "Do you give the credit card terminals for free or sell them?" I've always given them for free. The only exception has been if they want like some really expensive POS system, we'll usually like work out something where, especially if they're not on cash discount, if they're on cash discount, it might be worth just giving it to them. But if it's like a multi-thousand-hour system, we may work out something where like they just get ACH for a little payment every month, like a few $100. Uh, it just depends on the volume. It depends, like, is it on cash discount? Because if it's high volume, it's cash discount, give them whatever they want. I mean, yeah, sure. Here's a $10,000 system. Who cares? Like, you're going to make it
Yeah,
back
guys, if you're
so fast.
making 1,000 a month of a location, and a standalone terminal is going to cost anywhere from like 200 to like $800. A full Clover POS system is going to run you around 2,300 in that range. So if you're making 1,000 a month off the location, yeah, I think it'd be a good idea to buy them the system. But again, I've had customers, just every situation's different, but use that as a competitive advantage. Hey, we offer free equipment. Now, Richie, explain to them the downside of the free equipment. If that customer, if that bar, that business goes out of business, well, guess what? you took a big L
If
on that one.
if they close, if they get destroyed, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that if they don't like it, that becomes an issue, especially if it's like a high volume account and you don't want to lose it. And they're like, we really hate the system. We don't want this system. We saw this other system. We want this one. We want you to buy us this one. We've had that happen. But those and it sucks because those bigger accounts have a lot of terminals. It's not just like one or two registers. They have multiple floors with multiple registers. I mean, these are expensive, but you just got to do the math. I mean, like Kevin said, if you're making 1,000 or thousands of dollars a month and you have to eat another, few $1,000s, I mean, so what? Like, you're going to make it back. It takes money to make money.
So Fast Cash ATM said, so point of sale, best to take a course or to rely on YouTube videos to learn how to look, y'all, there's a lot of different ways to do it. I'm just telling you what I personally did, and I've sold, and I'm not saying this to brag to y'all or anything, man. I'm just saying it to encourage y'all and to show y'all like this shit's really, I did this shit part-time. I sold part of my route for $86,000. For me, that was a big win. Richie's probably done way bigger business deals. But for me at the time, that was huge. That was huge. And that was a part-time business. And I learned how to do all of it, yes, from YouTube. I literally during COVID, I remember just like binge watching CC Sales Pro. Again, he's not affiliated with this or anything, but I do. His content was amazing when I got started. But I did eventually pay for that course. And I'd say that paying for that course, what it did for me, Richie, was like, like water is like about to boil and it just takes that one extra degree and it starts boiling. I'd say when I paid for that course, that's what really separated me. Because Richie, you're in this shit and you're in business. How many people have approached you saying, hey, Richie, you got all these locations. You're the business guy. You went to Tulane. Oh, man, you want to partner with me and do credit card processing? How many people have done that to you?
Every month. It never stops. I do it sometimes though. In fact, like on the credit card stuff I do have partners. And the reason is because my core business is really the ATMs and the towers and some other things. And that's where most of my focus is. So if I have somebody who is like an absolute expert in this stuff that's willing to get out of bed on Saturday night and go sit at this place for 3 hours to get everything fixed, like, you know what? Like,
It
yeah,
takes a
sure.
team,
Like
dog.
I'll be their partner. So but yeah, everybody asks because they want to use our connections and our customers. And 99% of the time the answer is no. But there are people out there who are worth partnering up with. I mean, that's how I feel about partners in general. I'm not a big fan of having business partners. Historically, I haven't liked it because I find that I'm the one doing most of the work and they're not. And it's a pretty bad feeling once you're already,
Well, I got to
once
give
that
you
partner.
50% and I
Yeah,
do all the work, and this ain't a good deal.
it's a terrible feeling. But I will say, when you find the right partner and you complement each other's strengths and weaknesses, that is worth a lot. So you just have to be really, really careful who you partner with. You have to have everything written up front. You need to have a, operating agreement between the two of you, written by your attorney. It's got to be solid, and you just lay it out. You do this, I do that. This is what happens if you get hit by a bus and disappear. This is what happens if I get hit by a bus. You lay it all out. If you do it that way, it's so much better. So, it is a good business to have a partner. I mean, Kevin, a lot of people we know that are crushing it at credit cards do have a partner because of needing someone that can go out and deal with it at night or on the weekend and actually caring, like having skin in a game. So it could be worth it if it's the right person. Just be really, really careful who you partner with. And try not to
Yeah,
do it with family, because family's usually not who you should be partnering with typically. I mean, it works sometimes, but not.
I would advise you to what I like to do instead of partner is just outsource. So like, I got a guy that I can pay that, run cabling for me. He does it as side jobs. Now there's pros and cons of that because they're not always going to be available. Now, Richie, let's get in, a lot of people asking about the credit card process and stuff. Let's break down to them because they're hearing this crazy money. You got locations that make over $1,000 a month from one location. So imagine a guy, it's really realistic that you could have 30 to 50 locations making, 500 to 1,000 a month. How would you attack this thing? And I'll tell you how I did it, how I built it, but how would you attack it? Like if this was, you're starting from zero, no ATMs, no 1,000 ATMs, no hotels, and you're just on the streets. You're Richie Balmy still, but you have to build this this credit card processing and POS empire. How would you do it right now?
First off, every single place that I go to, whether I'm picking up food, picking up groceries, whatever I'm doing, I'm talking to everybody. I'm asking questions. How's your POS system? You ever have any issues? I don't care if you're asking the lowest person on the totem pole. In fact, that might be the best person to ask because they could tell you, oh, we've been having all kinds of problems. And usually that person can actually help you sell your product to the manager or the owner. But I'm talking to everybody. But what I'm mostly looking for are places that are under construction, that are new. If a bar is about to open, if some new retail store is about to open, a convenience store is about to open, like I'm looking for stuff that's opening because that's low hanging fruit because they're not locked in already. I mean, POS systems are sticky. If somebody has something and it's working and they're happy, they don't really want to change. That's a big disruption to their business. It's a little easier when it's just a terminal. When I say terminal, I mean like not the big POS system with the screen and all, just like the little credit card terminal that you swipe. That's a little bit easier to get people to switch. And some of the places that have those, it's just a total like money thing, or it was before cash discount. It used to be who could get me the best rates, and then boom, you would
The race to zero.
Right. Now it's different because they're not paying anything, and you're just charging 4% to the customer, the cardholder. But look, I'd approach it the same way that I approach ATMs. Talk to everyone everywhere you go. Be looking everywhere you go. Know everything moving. Keep a list of who's where. This place has Toast. This place has this. This place has that. They have Clover. These people were happy. These people weren't. Start to keep track. You should know everything moving in your town, who's where and all. And you'll start to find opportunities. You'll find openings. But the one thing I'd do different versus when I started with ATMs is I would take advantage of this tool, the internet, that's free, where I would be, blowing up Instagram, Facebook, all that, posting about this stuff, posting in Facebook Marketplace, posting in New Orleans business owners Facebook groups and Baton Rouge business owner Facebook group, or wherever you are. And bar owners group. I would go into all the Reddit groups. I would work the internet so hard. Like I would be in every group I could be. I'd be posting. I would be looking at Google News, finding out what's opening around me. I mean, you have like the greatest free tool ever just sitting there now in front of you. So that's what I would do differently for sure. I would take that and run with the internet and use it to identify locations.
Yeah, so look, y'all, I'm not going to give y'all the big brain stuff because I'm only going to tell y'all stuff I did, but I'm sure there's a lot of ways you could utilize AI to pull leads. You can buy, like Richie said, new businesses, because you're solving a problem for them. Credit card processing, like insurance, it's a necessary evil. So if you're able to solve a problem with them and they're going to ask you a bunch of questions, if you're able to competently answer those questions and you have references, yeah, those new businesses, that's been my bread and butter. Now, Richie, I'm gonna ask you something because I learned this in the course and it kind of blew my mind. What would you say? So, like, you're Richie Balmy in 1 month. In 1 month, how many locations do you think if you hit the streets? Like
If I
they say, you're
started,
all.
but you're saying I know nobody, like I'm starting
No,
out,
no,
or
no.
you're
You still
saying no?
know. You still know who you know. Like, because everybody's got like some type of competitive advantage. But like, you're somebody watching this, and you have the free time to go and solicit and sell. And I'm gonna break down the math to you, and I think it's gonna blow your mind. But how many do you think, just realistically, in 1 month, over a course of a year, per month, how many locations? Because you're saying that they're making 1,000 to 10,000 a month, so you have a lot of incentive to really work. But how many can Richie Balmy pull in 1 month?
I'd say on a low end, if I had nothing else to do and I was fully focused on this, on a low end, I should be able to do at least 10 a month. That's like the low end. I actually
Okay,
think I could do more, but I'm gonna be conservative and say 10 a month.
let's go with the 10 a month. And now to get to that 10, and this is a guy that came up with these statistics. He actually has trained thousands of salespeople, from used car salesmen to, Yale graduates, everything in between. And when he said the math works out the same, for you to sell 10 accounts in a month, you would have to talk to, in 30 days, you'd have to talk to 10 decision makers a day. Now, I know what a lot of you probably thinking, talk to 10 decision makers a day. That's easy. It's actually not. It's really not, because think about it, Richie. If you go to, say, on Bourbon Street, and you go in every bar on Bourbon Street, how many, when I say the decision maker, the GM or the owner, are actually going to be there? And if they even if they are there, are they even going to talk to you? So you see what I'm saying? It gets a little
I
harder
mean,
to.
it is, but I think guys like you and me who've been doing it a long time, like we're really good at that, like getting to, I mean, I remember that, a lot of these places, when you're talking about like the bars on Bourbon Street and all, they have gatekeepers that are always keeping people away from them. But once you've been through that over and over and over, you start to figure out how to get around that and how to, I mean, there was times where I would just act like I was somebody else and walk right up the stairs of like a 3-story, place in a French Quarter.
The
And
old
like,
pretend like you're supposed
I'd
to
end
be
up in the
there.
owner's office and they're like, how did you get up here? And there's actually a lot of stories of that. And I'm like, man, look, I came up here. They, like I was on a mission. And you know what? When you do something like that, they respect you and they'll actually talk to you. Like a lot of people are like, oh, they're going to throw me out. They're going to be mad or whatever. Like that doesn't happen. Like because you're talking to
Business people
another.
respect.
Yeah, you're
Game
talking
respect
to
game.
another you. Like you've just
Yeah.
proven to them that you're just like them and they're
Yeah.
like you and you're on the same level at that point. Like they also don't like to take no for an answer. So when they see somebody else like push through all of their barriers and just end up like right in front of them, they're impressed. And I'd be impressed if somebody did that to me. So I agree, Kevin, like it's probably hard for like the average person at first, but once you've like been through it, especially once you've like mastered rejection and been told no over and over, no, 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 no. Like for one, you're not afraid of being told no anymore. But for two, one day you're gonna learn that like no is just part of it. Like you get to know, but there is something past no. A lot of people think no is like the end. Oh, they said no, so I left. It's like, okay, yeah, you got to know. Cool. Let's talk about why.
How
Why is
many
it no? Like,
no's? How many no's did you turn into a yeah though? Like how many no's actually turned into a yeah 6 months? Yes, 6 months down the road though.
a lot of no's turned into yes, but it sometimes takes a lot longer than 6 months, man. And that's the other thing. You're playing the long game. So if I'm going out there and I'm gonna try to get 10 a month, let's say, that's not even including all the seeds that I've planted that may turn into a yes, 6 months, a year, maybe even multiple. I mean, there are places that I've been trying to get for 10 years that maybe I just got. And you know, I wasn't stopping there every day. I wasn't stopping there every month. I might have stopped there like once or twice a year, but just like reminded them, like, if there's ever a day, if there's ever a day, you ever want to go
Richie,
another route, you ever have a problem, you play the long game on this stuff. And then you get to the point where we are now, where our sales team like doesn't even have to push retail ATMs anymore, because we planted so many seeds for so long that people now call us. People that, you
that's
know,
beautiful. Yeah, if they come
talked
into
to
you, bro,
somebody
that's
on our
beautiful.
team years ago, right? And they're like, "Oh, I remember you." And finally, you know, something happened, or my vendor let me down, or whatever. And I mean, that actually happened this week, where a hotel in California, who like nobody here, like we haven't even called it. I don't even know how. Like, I don't know if they just like emailed us like, "Hey, look, we need ATM."
We're
Like,
ready
look,
to move forward.
you plant
Attrition.
you plant seeds and scatter seeds like all over the place, and one day
Attrition is
they'll,
real, guys.
yeah.
Attrition's real. You know, you're gonna see, you know, them nose gonna turn to yeah. Now, Fast Cash ATM said that yeah, laundromats have so many gatekeepers. So, Richie, you ever seen Wolf of Wall Street? Remember the scene? Sell me this pen. So,
Mhm.
tell me what Richie would do. You walk into a laundromat and you want to sell them credit card processing. You walk in, you don't know anybody, they don't know you. None of your
Would you
connections work.
but would you sell credit card processing to a laundromat? Like,
Yeah, some
isn't
of
a
them take. Yeah, they
laundromat
take cards. They take
really?
cards. Yeah, a lot of them take cards. Yeah, a lot of them will have
You mean like at the,
what
washing?
for their fold service for all the, you know, when they you drop off a bag of clothes, like the plant guys will drop off a bag of clothes. So like yeah, I know a
Okay,
few of
yeah,
them.
yeah.
But what would you do? So you walk in
I mean,
cold.
look, if I'm selling, so cash discount is, in my opinion, like the easiest thing to sell to somebody who doesn't have cash discount. Now, look, it's gotten way easier than it was. Kevin knows a couple years ago, it was so new. Everybody's like, I
Nobody
don't
wanted it.
know, it's too good to be true. People aren't going to want to pay. But now everybody knows about it. Like, it's become normal. So this doesn't just apply to laundromats. If I walk into any business and I'm selling credit card processing, the first question I'm going to ask is, hey, do you take credit cards? Which is usually yes. How much is that costing you? Like, how much are you paying for credit cards? And I'm like, well, you know, I'm paying whatever, $3,000, $4,000 a month in credit card processing. I'm like, okay, so you're paying like 50,000 a year to the credit card company, right? Yeah. What could you do with another $50,000 a year? Like,
Ooh,
if I could take that fifty
put a
thousand
number on it.
dollars and hand it right back to you, what would you buy with it? Like, you're gonna buy a boat, you're gonna buy a vacation house, a condo, and all. You get them thinking, man. They start thinking like, man, you know, $50,000, because you got to think like the margin on a lot of businesses. You know, they're paying. You know, a guy might only make $100,000 or $200,000 off his business, and they're paying $50,000 in credit card fees. So that's a huge increase. That's like, I mean, they just went to a new level, right? Like getting that extra 50 grand without having to do any extra work. So I'm gonna be like, look, I can take that 50 grand and put it right back in your pocket. Now if you don't have their attention, something's wrong, right? Like,
Yeah,
if
yeah,
somebody walks in my
you
office
messed
and
up
says that,
somewhere in the process.
yes. If somebody walks in
Now
my office and says that, if they're like, hey, and
I'm
look, I don't
listening
care.
at lit.
I don't
It's free
care
to
how
listen.
much money I'm making. If they tell me if I have a way that you can save 50 grand right to your bottom line, that's going right. I'm like, dude, like, what do I need to do? Like, I'm listening.
It's free
So
to listen.
if you get their attention there, which you should, if they don't have cash discount, then you know, you got it. I mean, if you can't close that, you can't close anything. Like, you're giving
Yeah,
somebody a
it's free money.
free
It's
50
free
grand.
money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll give y'all some big brain shit. You know, I shouldn't be Richie, I shouldn't be sharing this with him, man. But you know, since y'all made it this far in the video, I'm gonna share it with y'all. Look, y'all, we got a few more minutes. So if y'all got any questions, drop them in now before we go. But I'll tell you exactly what I would do. So the first thing you do when you walk into place, one, just understand that who you're talking to, you need to not need the sale. So take off. It's going to take pressure off of you. It's going to take pressure off of that, and no one wants to be sold anything. So think of it like being a doctor. when you go to a doctor, Richie, the doctor is going to ask questions. They're going to probe you. They're going to, and what happens is it's going to allow the prospect to open up to you. So the less pushing, the less salesy you are, it's going to allow them to open up. Now, he was talking about gatekeepers with the laundromat. Well, let me tell you the best way to get past a gatekeeper. Walk straight up to them and politely say, hey, here to talk to the owner about the credit card processing account. I don't know what it is, Richie. When you say account at the end of anything, dude, they think that you're, you know what I'm saying? They don't know what it's in reference to. They just hear the credit card processing account. So they just fold over and they just bring you to whoever. But like Richie said, you need to get to that value proposition fast, because these are business owners. And like the last thing a business owner wants to do is you to waste his time. So if you can show him and articulate significant savings, they're going to at least listen to you.
Yeah, actually, we don't even put like sales rep on business cards. We don't put anything about sales. It should be like account executive or
consultant,
business consultant, business development, maybe, but you don't put sales because there's such a negative stigma for sales.
Even when I get, people call me in reference to, credit card stuff, I try to like tell to them, well, like, let me see if I can even help you first, or if somebody even questions me trying to sell them something, I'm like, well, before I do that, let's see if there's even a fit, because Richie can tell you, you're not going to be able to help everybody. Richie, you've had people call you wanting Clover or Toast, and you can't help everybody. So what's the point of selling somebody that you can't even help?
Yeah. People have called and asked for all kinds of things we can't do. It happens all the time. Like things that either we really aren't able to do because maybe they want Toast and we're not able to get them Toast. But even on like the ATM side, it may be something that like the deal just doesn't make sense for us and all, but you still want to build that relationship. Like you want them to remember you. You want to treat them really well, respectfully. And if we can, if somebody calls us, let's say somebody's like insistent that they want Toast and there's no way of talking them out of it. If we can help them, like, here's who you need to call at Toast, even though that's like our competitor, it's still, when you do stuff like that, you're building that relationship. And one day, probably Toast is going to drop the ball like they did a couple months ago when they were down for like 2 days, and they're going to call you.
Yeah, and they added for the online ordering, they added like a dollar, some type of like surcharge if you do online ordering. But the thing is that surcharge doesn't go to the business owner. So what it has you thinking is like, okay, well, whose customer is it really? You see what I'm saying? Like the customer's coming. This is Toast's customer, not mine anymore. So
that's bad. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so I'll give y'all some big brain stuff before we go though. You wanna go like Richie said about the low hanging fruit, the new businesses. But don't go walk down Bourbon Street. You got to compete with Richie Balmy. Are y'all crazy right now? Like, don't do that. Go to little areas that don't have, that way when the salesperson walks in a little small town, a little small mom and pop shop, the decision maker is usually there, the mom and pop places. And then it's kind of a novelty, like, who the hell's this guy? You know what I'm saying? Nobody walks in this place, but and then niche down to, like warehouses, big industrial places. You'd be surprised, guys, if they take credit cards that you can help them. But y'all, we're running out of time. Anybody have any questions? Y'all make sure to give Richie a follow. Y'all, we're streaming this on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Rumble. We're streaming it everywhere we can, man. I hope y'all got a lot of value out of this. But we got somebody else got a question to ask. Sammy, what's your question, man? That's not a question. Richie, you got anything you want to leave my audience with, man? Because I know you're doing. I mean, we didn't even get into Richie's doing hotels. Richie's doing real estate. He's doing a lot of advertising, digital billboards. I mean, and
anything unattended. We're all about unattended. So if you want to learn about unattended businesses, follow me. We're dropping all kinds of free content. We're dropping these lives every week. Kevin and I are definitely going to do some more lives. We're both right here in St. Bernard, so it makes sense. And we're both in unattended, but I think everybody should really check out the unattended space. There's so many options. There's so many routes you can go with it. It may not be ATMs. It could be jukeboxes. It could be arcade games. It could be it could be billboards. It could be towers. I mean, there's so many things. There's a fit for everyone. And even if you have a full-time job, a real career, and you don't want to quit it, you could still build up something on the side and have side income. And then some people do want to quit and they want to build like a huge unattended empire and quit their job. And that's fine too. So just find your fit. We actually, we just made this free PDF. I think you saw it, Kevin, where, because I'm always getting DM'd and people are like, oh, well, what should I do? Which I know these types of business owners, or I I live in this area. Which business should I get into? Which unattended business? So we made a free PDF. You can get it from our Instagram, where basically we break down like our top 10 unattended businesses, and we say, here's the pros, here's the cons, here's how you get started, here's about how much it costs, and we give all of that for free. We're not selling anything. So if you want to learn more about unattended business, and look, a lot of guys who are watching are in the unattended business already, and I've been trying to encourage people, look, if you're an ATM, start adding some of these other unattended businesses to your portfolio, or vice versa. So that's something you could look at too. Well, I think we have a question.
Yeah. Yeah, so Sammy said when you get a location to put it inside, do you guys put a specific amount of years you make them keep the ATMs? I guess he means like a contract. He said, I own 6 ATMs. In all of our contracts, we put that whenever they want to take it out, they can, which I'm thinking about switching to possibly a 3-year minimal deal. Look, Richie, I'll go first. Y'all, I've never done an ATM contract on any of my locations because most of my locations weren't as good as maybe some of the ones Richie has, so it wasn't even worth. And I'm just old school, y'all. I didn't, but I can't really speak too much on that because I do a lot of stuff old school. What do you think, Richie?
Man, look, when people ask me what business I'm really in, I tell them the contract business. So at the end of the day, your greatest asset that you own when you're in a unattended business isn't the machine, it's the contract. So 3 years, I mean, you should be pushing for 5 years. We push for 5-year contracts and auto renewing with a lot of other great terms that are, good for both sides. But that is worth a lot of money, and that builds your real equity and value in this business, so that if you ever did want to get out, you can now get out for a pretty high multiple. Versus I have friends that, I mean, like Kevin said, old school, they don't want to sign contracts, they want to do everything on a handshake. But guess what? When they decide to get out, or when they get sick or get hurt or anything and they can't do it anymore, their business isn't worth much. It's the truth. It's the truth. So you have to get contract. And not to mention, there's a lot of protection that comes out of having a contract. I mean, you could go stick an ATM in a store and they could just roll out. They could say they could take it and say you gave it to them, and you don't have any paperwork showing that you didn't. So you push for 5-year contracts. I mean, this idea that you're saying where they could still take it out, you're letting them take it out, and I mean that's I wouldn't do that. I don't think you should.
Fast Cash asks, when are we planning on doing the next live stream? Yo, my schedule's probably a lot freer than Richie's. Richie's running a huge ATM company. He's jet setting, traveling the country, doing business deals all over the country, real estate, all over the world now. You're doing ATMs all over the world now, right?
Not all over the world, but all over. We have, our team is now all over the world. So we're a team of about 20, and about half of us are here in Arabi at our headquarters, and then we have an office now in Mexico, where about a quarter of our team is there, and then the rest are scattered in different parts of the U.S. or different countries.
Okay, y'all, one more question and we got to go. We run out of time. Sammy said, have you heard of purchasing ATM routes? That's something I was thinking about getting into, by possibly buying a route and keeping it for a couple months, then flipping it whenever I'm ready. Richie, what do you think of that?
It's a great model if you do it right. I mean, there are guys who sell for way too little because they don't know any better, or because they get in a jam and they just need to sell. But these small routes, they're not really interesting to the some of the big companies. So you're able to go in, buy them. If they don't have contracts, you can go in and get contracts on a lot of them. We've pulled that off before, where we've kind of developed some really cool ways to get people who never had a contract to sign one years later, even though they never wanted one. So you go get them under contract, raise the surcharges. Too many people in ATM business and many other businesses don't charge enough. I mean, inflation is real. If you're still charging what you were charging in 2019, that's a problem. You need to raise those prices. They're too low. So you raise the prices, you renegotiate deals that aren't good deals. You tell people, hey, look, your ATM does half of what it did 10 years ago when it went in, and we can't pay you what we used to pay you. This is the new rate. And if they say no, say, okay, well, what day can I pick it up? And usually most of the time, let's say 8, 9 times out of 10, they're going to say, okay, just leave it in. I'll agree to new terms because I want to have an ATM here for my customers. So you get creative, you learn, but you improve the deals. And then, yes, absolutely, you could take that, go on like biz buy sell, where you're going to get on these small portfolios. Biz buy sell is unmatched. I don't care what broker you hire, who you know in the ATM industry. If you go on biz buy sell, you can take a well-oiled portfolio that has contracts, and you can get insane multiples from these little tiny investors. When I say tiny, I'm saying anything probably below 500,000, but probably the sweet spots in like the 100,000-200,000 range. There's a lot of people that can come up with that much money, more than you'd think. And they pay high multiples because they just want to get into the ATM business. So if you have a few dozen ATMs that they can get started with, then that's a great package for them.
Yeah, well, it comes down like, what do you have? Do you have money or do you have time? If you have money, then yeah, you can go to biz buy sell and buy a route. If you don't have the money to buy a route, then you have time. You have time to go solicit. But no, Sammy, it's all good, man. I appreciate you, tuning in. I appreciate the question.
Yeah,
But
I
y'all,
want to say one quick thing too, that I've seen. The economy is not good right now, as Kevin knows. Everything's like messed up economically, and really, it's a hard time to sell things, to finance things, and all. But ATM businesses have been selling for like record multiples that I've seen, and there's more interest right now in buying ATM routes than I've ever seen, at least in a very, very long time. Because people just see it as cash flow. They see it as a high return, and it is a
you
high
have to
return.
appreciate the machines too.
Yeah,
It's a lot of
yeah,
tax in there.
and they just look at it. They put the money in a stock market. They don't know what's going to happen, if they're going to get much of a return or what. So they know if they buy. I mean, the math is there. They say, okay, if I buy this, I can get this return. And the returns are, even at a high multiple, the returns are huge. So if you have contracts, it's a pretty safe investment for those guys. So great time actually for that idea that you have to buy and flip portfolios.
What up, D-Bug? Yeah, well, that's all the time we got, y'all. Make sure to give Richieprofits a follow. And look, y'all, maybe in a month, maybe in a week, maybe 2 months, whenever Richie's down, we'll do another. Y'all let us know in the comments if you wanted us to do more ATM, more credit card processing. Richie, we didn't even get into real estate. That'll have to be a separate week. That could be a 4-hour matinee episode. But anyway, guys.
Very, very painful lately. So I'm glad we didn't get into it today. And on a good note.
All right, y'all. Well, thank y'all for everybody tuning in. Thank y'all for all the questions. Give Richieprofits a follow. And guys, if you want to get into ATM machines, man, hit him up because he will take care of you. Anyway, y'all, we are out. Peace.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, everyone.